Greetings, this is Wretched from Grave Robber, and you're watching the Mike Wolf YouTube channel.
Hi, I'm Dan Lawrence, and we're here once again at the Kingdom Come Festival in Kokomo, Indiana. We have a lot of different bands here this year, and today I'm going to talk to Grave Robber. I'm here with the lead singer of Grave Robber. So tell us your name and where you guys are from.
My name is Wretched, and we are from the home of Christian rock, Fort Wayne.
You guys, I gotta say, put on one heck of a performance today, and it takes a lot to impress me, but I was impressed. Not only the showmanship, but the musicianship. Can you talk a little bit about the individual guys in the band and the instruments?
And people that are way into that scene have a certain idea of what following the Reanimator is. And they're completely wrong, but they have a preconceived idea. So if we go in, especially looking like this, and talk in Christianese, they're never going to listen.
Right.
We have to use their language the same way that Paul did at Mars Hill. Paul didn't go in talking the way he would talk in Jerusalem. He went in talking the way they talked. Exactly. He used their art, their language, their poems to describe. There's a statue of an unknown God at Mars Hill, and Paul said, I know who that is. So when we talk about the Reanimator to that segment, to that group of people, we describe to them, we know who the Reanimator is. And of course there was an old movie called The Reanimator, which has nothing to do with Christianity. But hey, it's high time that the things that the world has stolen from the Reanimator, we're stealing it back.
You know, the crazy thing is, when you first used the term Reanimator, I knew exactly who you were talking about. Well, that's what I think is great about it.
Well, that's because you're possessed.
Yeah.
And I'm possessed. Any follower of the Reanimator is possessed, but it's what we're possessed with, or rather, who we're possessed by. That's the difference. So, people in the world may not understand what I'm talking about when I say the Reanimator, so I will explain it. And they have trouble understanding when I say I'm possessed. Like, I'm not talking about demons. I'm talking about a holy possession.
Yeah, it's a whole lot cooler to be possessed by Jesus, the Reanimator. That is for sure.
Well, it's the only way to life. Only way to true life.
Now, as I mentioned before, I talked about the musicianship in your band. So let's talk a little bit about your latest recordings, or maybe any upcoming recordings. I know a lot of bands have said during the quarantine, well, what are we going to do? We'll go into the studio. Is that possibly the case with your band?
No.
No?
With Grave Robber, we've been working on a series of videos from the last album, Zombieland, Lips of Blood, and Evil Dead. And we're working with a filmographer who graduated from the George A. Romero Film School, and he happens to be a believer as well. And we're shooting this trilogy of videos that so far looks really amazing.
Well, we're from Pittsburgh, so George Romero is kind of a hometown boy for us.
Yes, and so for us, getting the videos done, we're redoing the costumes, redoing the mask. We snuck out two new parts of our stage show today. That was the gates and the Satan head that the audience pound his face.
I noticed that.
So new things that we're working on is getting a new guitar player worked in, working on the stage show, working on new visuals, new costumes, new videos. So we are working. We're just in the very inklings about planning to record a new album that I hope will be out October of 2021.
Okay. Now, I know, I always hate to bring up the quarantine this year because it really stunk for a lot of bands, I'm guessing. So, do you have any other live shows planned for the rest of 2020?
We are currently scheduled on the Warning Tour in Mexico, which would take us all over Mexico. We don't know whether the quarantine will stop us from traveling or not. We're still waiting to see.
Okay, now that tour, is that all Christian bands or is it a little bit of both maybe?
All the bands are followers of the Reanimator, every one of them. But the tour is very much underground music. Hardcore, metalcore, death metal, black metal, and of course, with us,
Right.
punk rock.
It's hard to describe. It's very wrong.
Well, because
It's pretty unique.
we're fans of, we're definitely a punk rock band. We are a horror punk band, but we're fans of so many other things. We're fans of metal, we're fans of hardcore, we're fans of straight up rock and roll. So we try to incorporate all of that. And I believe our next album will probably be a lot more rock and roll than what we've done in the past, just because we've always had that element, but we've never said concentrated on it and made it a major ingredient in what we do.
Yeah. Because it seemed to me like what you guys were playing today was hard rock. I mean, it wasn't as mean. It surely it curved into metal, but it seemed more hard rock to me. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but it's probably why I enjoyed it so much.
My favorite punk rock bands always had more rock and roll than anything. And the Ramones never called themselves punk rock.
Oh no!
They said we're a rock and roll band,
And I don't think they really ever call themselves punk bands either.
No, they called themselves a rock and roll band. And I'd say we're a horror punk band, but we love rock and roll, so put another dime in the jukebox, baby.
Yeah, of course. So, okay, I know this might be a tough one, but who would you say were some of your main influences when you say like you were a young person as any kind of music, like Christian or non-Christian or Reanimator music?
Well, it may shock you, but I was not born a Christian.
No! Come on!
It's the truth. So, in my younger years, number one, Kiss. Number two, Alice Cooper. David Bowie. Sweet. Anything that was theatrical.
Right.
And later on, I got into heavier stuff like Motorhead, and the Ramones, and the Misfits, and the Dead Boys. And I started listening to more and more punk rock, and I was always a fan of horror, but I drew a line. Things like rape and torture, I couldn't do that. But I liked monsters.
Yeah, but there's
I like
some
monsters.
horror movies that don't go over that line,
Exactly.
and they can still scare you pretty good.
Yes, and so for me, horror movies are it's a morality play. A good horror movie, the bad guy loses. In
Right.
a good horror movie, the evil entity gets destroyed. In a
Right.
good horror movie, that's why I don't like Paranormal Activity, because the demons keep winning.
Right.
And I read through the scriptures and see that
Devil never
ultimately
wins.
they don't win.
Yeah.
In fact, they've already lost.
Yep.
So I have a trouble with horror films that depict that, but I like monsters. In fact, I can explain everything about Grave Robber and myself by telling you that it's my grandmother's fault.
Okay.
She was a Sunday school teacher who let me stay up on Saturday nights and watch Creature Feature. It's all her fault.
Yeah, every Saturday night.
Every
Chiller
Saturday.
theater for us.
Yes, Chiller Theater, the Creature Feature, of course Elvira later. But watching those movies, and even some of the movies with giant spiders or giant rabbits or, you know, any of those kind of movies. They were just fun. And my grandmother let me watch those movies as long as I made it to Sunday school the next morning.
Very good.
So I think she didn't intend on making this happen. But I blame her for that. And I also would say...
You didn't give her credit for the responsibility. Not wrong.
Yes. And I would also say that she inadvertently taught me, by doing that, taught me that following him was far more important than following traditions or structures or man-made religion, because she didn't tell me that, oh, that's evil and that's evil and that's evil. What she told me was, he is good.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you something that you probably get asked a lot, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Come on! How can you say you're a follower of the Reanimator when you dress like this on stage? Come on, man!
Well, I would respond to that with, have you ever read the depiction of John the Baptist? At least we're not eating locusts.
Yeah.
Not that I wouldn't, but at least we're not. So the appearances, and even he himself, didn't say that he was handsome or stood out among men. He was a normal-looking guy. The other thing is, we try to explain to as many people as we can that this is not a depiction of dying or death. This is a depiction of coming back from the dead, because we are reanimated corpses. You know, a dead man doesn't stand on stage with a microphone singing. We're reanimated by the reanimator.
Okay. One last question. Is there anything you would like to say to your fans out there that watch the Mike Wolf YouTube channel that maybe we haven't discussed it in the interview yet?
Yes, you introduced us as a new band, but this is actually year 15.
Cool.
15 years and several albums, and we just want to thank everyone for who supported us over the years, and everyone who's becoming new fans. I mean,
well, I'm a new fan.
Well, we love our old fans, but we definitely love new fans, and we call our fans the Army of the Dead.
Yeah, I hate that word, fans, too.
I don't like it.
Call it family.
It's family. To us, it's the Army of the Dead.
Okay.
You're more than just family. You're in an army. And we're an army that stands up for truth. It stands up for what we believe in.
Okay. Anything else?
Thank you.
All right.
How about how long, because you didn't really even ask them, when did the band start? So that way you...
A little bit of a Reader's Digest condensed version of the history of the band.
Yes, well, this is an interesting story. This might be not so Reader's Digest, but
Well, he'll put it in. You can edit it.
okay. The concept of Grave Robber started in 2003 when we were all fans of the Misfits, and all of us went to the same church, and we were all on the worship team, and we were all fans of the Misfits. And we wished that there was a band, a Christian band that we could listen to that sounded like the Misfits. Of course, there wasn't one. So one day we decided that maybe we should start one. And I said, that would never work. We should never do that. That would be a horrible idea. The other guys said, we need to do this. I said, I'll tell you what, we will do this band when we all pray, and when he says go, then we'll do it. That was 2003. Our first rehearsal was in 2005. We all walked into worship band rehearsal, and we all looked at each other and were like, you got an answer, didn't you? We all did at the same time. And we all believed that he told us now was the time, and we started. 2 weeks later, we got a call to open up for Dr. Chud from the Misfits. 3 weeks later, we opened up for Dr. Chud, played 5 songs. And that was the very beginning. It was in October of 2005. And we've just been going ever since. There's been ups and downs. There's been periods of time where we were inactive, and periods of time where we were very active. But we've always kept our focus on one thing and one thing only, and that is to direct people to the reanimator.
You can take us. I'm just curious. I would ask a person. Have you ever been compared to Guar?
We are compared to War probably 4 or 5 times a day,
Really?
which I don't agree.
Really?
Sonically, we're definitely more like the Misfits. I understand that.
Sonically.
I understand the appearance, and I get that, but sometimes we get called the Christian War, but we don't sound like it at all. So I don't agree, but I understand because of the masks. But there's lots of bands out there that wear masks. We're also called the Christian Slipknot, which of course we don't sound like them at all. Yes, amigos. This is Wretched from Graverobber, and you're watching the Mike Wolf YouTube channel.